A global treaty to protect the high seas has come into force. Over 80 nations have already ratified the agreement to gain control and preserve marine ecosystems far away from the beach or coast. It's one area of the world's environment that, until today, has been largely unregulated.
The ocean can be wild and turbulent, but that is only one of its facets. From microscopic plankton to huge fish communities, life abounds even far from the coast, out on the high seas. The high seas lie outside of the control of single states in international waters at least 200 nautical miles from the coast. They make up 2/3 of the entire ocean. From an environmental protection perspective, these regions have been the Wild West of the marine world. With the International High Seas Treaty that comes into force today, that is set to change.
A large number of very important ecosystems, communities which live there. I mean, we know, for example, that the large whales, they travel on the high seas. Fish have high seas communities. So it is definitely, there are a number of areas which are worthwhile protecting.
The treaty was adopted in 2023 after almost 2 decades of negotiations. Signatory states agreed to promote research and monitoring of ecosystems on the high seas. Poorer countries in particular could benefit from the exchange of technologies and the use of genetic material from the sea. This material is needed for the production of certain medicines and biotechnologies. Another aim is to establish protected areas, but it is not yet clear how this protection will be achieved.
If you have a protected area, it's more than just a figure on a map or whatever. Like you said, it has to be filled with life. It has to be managed actively. It has to be controlled. Reports have to be written. That is a big problem. Nowadays, we have technology which will help surveying the high seas better, but there will still, for the foreseeable future, be a need for vessels to go there.
Details of the implementation will be decided in the coming years. More than 80 countries have already ratified the treaty, including the EU, China and Brazil. More are set to follow. What is clear, whether it's through overfishing, plastic waste or chemical pollution, life in the oceans is under threat. This also poses a danger to the livelihoods of millions of people. Scientists therefore see the treaty as a major step towards protecting not only the high seas, but the entire ocean.
For a deeper dive into the topic, we thought we'd ask Jessica Battle to join us. She has been leading the No Deep Seabed Mining Initiative and High Seas Treaty at the Worldwide Fund for Nature and was highly involved in creating this treaty. Jessica, it's good to have you with us. After nearly 2 decades in the making, 20 years of negotiating, here we are. What was your initial reaction when you learned the treaty had in fact been approved?
Thank you for having me, Michael, on this important show. It was an amazing feeling. This treaty was negotiated over many years. It was actually the kernel of the idea started in 2001, and here we are today with a treaty that can help govern the use of the ocean of half our planet, basically. It's an amazing achievement by states, and that they agreed this together at a time when it's quite difficult to agree, big treaties and agreements at the international level.
You say it's an amazing achievement. Why is this treaty considered such a significant milestone for global ocean conservation?
Well, it is the first time that states came together to agree that they needed an instrument that could work for everyone to protect the high seas. And the most important part of the treaty is the collaboration that this treaty fosters. The collaboration to set up protected areas, to agree where they should be, what needs to be regulated, what kind of human activities, fishing and shipping, for example, need to be regulated or potentially even removed from those areas in order to protect the species and the ecosystem functions that we all benefit from, that are provided from these areas. So that, to me, is the most important achievement of this treaty.
Some major economies have not yet joined, as you well know. What factors do you think might motivate or delay their decision to ratify the treaty?
For some, it's actually just a question of time and their own, how the lawmaking works in their countries. We hear that many more countries are going through the process of ratification to become parties to the treaty, and then they are, bound by the treaty in their own law as well. For some, it will take a little bit longer because they need to go through consultations with industry, for example, and they have to have their say before the treaty can be ratified. But I'm positive that we will see many more ratifying. We now have 83, and you mentioned earlier that we have China and Brazil just joining. This is really important. The big countries and the big economies of the world need to ratify the treaty, and in particular those countries that actually have what we call skin in the game, countries who have industrial economic interests in the high seas, but also countries who depend on the high seas but may not directly go out there on vessels. It was mentioned before that billions of people rely on the high seas, on the ocean, for food and for jobs. And the high seas are like a reservoir for many of the fish that then go into national waters, to the coastal areas where most people fish and benefit from this biodiversity. And that needs to be safeguarded for the future.
So, Jessica, in a nutshell, what's next for the High Seas Treaty?
So the next step formally is that the states who have become parties to the treaty are going to meet within a year. This will be the first so-called conference of the parties. And here we will start to see this collaboration happen. There is more money that needs to be coming into the system, which is why it's so important to get the big economies to ratify the treaty, so that the kind of slightly boring and procedural bits of establishing the bureau and the other institutions that are important, like a scientific committee, for example, that need to then review proposals for marine protected areas, for example, all of that needs to be set up. Once that's set up, then proposals for marine protected areas can start flowing in to the Conference of the Parties and to the treaty system to be approved. First scrutinized, I'm sure, and there will be a lot of discussions of why some areas need to be protected. But finally, we are hoping that states will see sense and that we will see vast areas of the high seas under some form of protection, as that's actually needed for all of us.
Got it. That's Jessica Battle, Global Conservation Leader and Ocean Policy Expert. Many thanks and congratulations.
Thank you.